Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Jesse Buddington with us today. Jesse is the co-founder of Louder. It was acquired by Spotify, so he was a PM there for quite some time. And nowadays, he's the co-founder at CreateBase. So Jesse, I'm glad to have you on. Tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Um, let's see. Basically, my experience comes from the world of music. I used to be an opera singer, and I got into cover song licensing and intellectual property and all of that stuff sort of accidentally. One of us, while we were going through music school, had a collegiate a cappella group, and they wanted to put their music on iTunes. And that kind of spiraled out into this, well, we need to figure out cover song licensing, we need to figure out rights and royalties and publishing, and someone had to teach themselves copyright law. I drew the short stick, so that ended up being me. And I've just been working in this space ever since, but it's been a weird and delightful way to get interested in a side of the music industry that most people don't see. And I've been able to go to all sorts of conventions and speak with all sorts of lawyers on panels, and it's been a lot of fun. My current
So
project, of
is
course, being CreateBase, which is a thing to try to streamline all of the finance, business, and intellectual property law things that an artist, a musician needs to be able to do without having them leave the practical world of their music, where they are a real human being that collaborates on beautiful, meaningful art with their friends.
So is the current licensing slash royalty model working right now? Is it scalable, especially in the age of AI?
I think it always needs to adapt to technology, right? The original purpose of copyright was to deal with the printing press, right? This new technology had come out, and suddenly it was easy as possible to manufacture an unprecedented number of books. And so we had to invent copyright to protect the creators of creative works from having their stuff just wholesale copied by anybody who felt like it. And throughout history, throughout the age of downloads, throughout the age of streaming, we've seen all of these technological advancements drive changes in the types of licensing and the type of compensation that's available to creators. I think the proliferation of AI is going to create the exact same need, although in a fundamentally different way. Whereas before it took weeks to produce a copy of something, now it only takes a few instants. But people will have to figure out how artists can be a part of that conversation and how artists can be fairly compensated for the work that they do, whatever point down the path that takes.
Do you feel that your background as an opera singer helped you in business in some shape and form?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done all kinds of weird shows that don't fit into a neat category. And I think my background as an artist more generally is something that helps me immensely in business, in startups, in tech, because artists don't want to be told what to do. Artists do whatever they do, and it is the responsibility of smart technology to adapt to the reality of what an artist does. If I tell an artist, you can fit in category A or category B or category C, they will say, what about this thing that fits way over here? And if a system doesn't fit into that, if a system doesn't work with what the artist can do, then it's not going to serve that artist. So I think the philosophy of artists can do truly anything, and a system is not intelligent until the system can adapt to truly anything. That's a philosophy that I take into every tool that I build. And of course, I fall short every single time, right? No tool can account for the myriad different things that can come from artists' minds, especially when they work collaboratively together. But I think that's a really beautiful thing about the space that we're in. And certainly we try our best to make our systems work like magic for those artists who do all kinds of unprecedented things.
And you keep mentioning weird. It's also weird to be a founder. It's very lonely. It's quite different as well. Like, do you think that weirdness, you've just embraced it as an artist and that has sort of served you in business as well, when everyone is doubting and saying no, this can't work, you still pursued and continued where you thought was the interest?
Yeah, I mean, this is a thing that I talk about all the time, and I am a firm proponent of people hiring artists into roles like tech. Artists, especially ones that have been working in their craft for 6, 7, 8, 12, 14, 25 years, those people have seen everything, right? They've been in productions where something goes catastrophically wrong opening night and they need to figure it out. They've been in things where something goes catastrophically wrong in the middle of the performance that they are currently doing and they need to figure it out. It is a true trial by fire to have an artistic career. Something amazing and interesting and terrible and once in a lifetime is happening every single moment, all at the same time. So I think that artists are oftentimes the ideal tech employees. I built my first startup, with my friends who were themselves pianists, orchestra performers, opera singers, and I had to learn copyright law. My friend had to learn business accounting. My other friend had to learn business management. My other friend had to learn, how to code a technological system, and later had to learn machine learning, right, when that was becoming emergent. And all of them just took on those tasks. In my current startup, I've never coded before, but now these AI tools are available for coding. I am doing front-end coding. I'm doing database engineering. There's all this stuff. I'm doing a lot of AI agent prompt coding, these kinds of things. And if I didn't have the philosophy that I know I can just jump into a thing and learn a new skill and produce a high-level result at that skill, I might be intimidated by that. But I think it is part of the artist's ethos to say, well, I've never done this before. I'm going to learn how to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm not going to produce perfect results the first time, but I will get better and better. And the weird thing is that eventually you look at the table of people that you're with and you say, oh, I have somehow become the expert in this. And I really like that process as well.
The exit, was it expected, or yeah, and was it a good exit, or was it more like yeah, like we need to absolutely sell this company because it's not working? Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, I would say that we were definitely looking for a larger company to partner with. There were a lot of things we loved about doing Louder, and many of those things were working directly with artists, working on interesting songs, being able to listen to some of this great music as it was coming through our pipelines. The parts we didn't like were managing everybody's healthcare, like all the traditional complaints of a United States company, right? We were doing all of these things by ourselves with no parent company. And I think at most we ever had 12 employees, but usually it was around 8 to 10. So it was a massive amount of work. We were doing a true end-to-end licensing and distribution platform for music, where everything just seemed like magic to the artist, which meant that we were constantly behind the scenes, plugging things in and moving stuff around. And it's the metaphor of the duck, right? The duck looks very calm on top of the water, and underneath the water, it's going. So that's what we were doing all the time. The acquisition by Spotify enabled me for the very first time to not have to think about healthcare or taxes or business licenses or any of the other stuff that a larger corporation would take care of. So I would say, yeah, we were very successful. We wanted both the reach that Spotify gave us, because they suddenly gave us access to an unprecedented number of artists around the world. And also we wanted them to act the way that a parent company should act, which is to take care of the finances and all of that stuff.
Got it. And what are your thoughts on companies like Suno? Are artists still gonna be producing music? Like there's very talented artists out there, but Big Bieber or Guetta sold their music, their library of music copyright not so long ago. Do you think that the future top producers would be AI in the next coming years? Hence, the copyrights wouldn't matter that much.
Yeah, so when you talk about copyrighting music, there's two different parts. There's the sound recording copyright and there's the musical work copyright. So you can think of the sound recording as what you hear, and you can think about the musical work as the sheet music or the instructions for what you would hear. I think that publishing and the sheet music part is going to become way more valuable relative to the sound recording. In past ages, you really had to have a lot of skill to produce a professionally sounding sound recording. And so a lot of the work, a lot of the value comes from the actual thing that people engage with most of the time. You know, most people are not readers of sheet music. And so they are only able to engage with a song through the medium of hearing it as a stereo track. Now everybody has that ability. And if somebody wants to have a custom made tweak on their personal version, they can have that. And if they want to generate 10,000 versions from a previous version that exists, they can do that in an instant. So the art, the craft of actually creating the song that then gets turned into this sound recording, that's the part that's going to be incredibly valuable. And I'm actually including in that the human contributions to sound that cannot easily be replicated by an AI. So as a singer, I have a unique voice. I have a unique voice type. When I sing, it does not sound like other, machine created things. I can sing slightly flat if I want to. I can sing slightly sharp if I want to. I can communicate a lot of emotional material in that line that I sing. So somebody might generate 90% of a track and then hire me to come on and do the vocal line, right? Or hire a professional guitarist to do the solo, or hire a professional bass player to really rock out on the bass line, right? Hire a professional drummer so that it doesn't sound like it was made by a machine, because it wasn't. So I think those human contributions and the songwriting craft are all collectively going to become what will be valuable about music.
Right. And I know that these engines, they're sort of straying away from prompt like, hey, send me a song that looks just like Drake, or like this artist, or you can upload a track that they did, and it will produce a similar beat. Is there a specific reason for that?
Yeah, the existing protections that copyright has, a lot of things, especially musical works, have protection against substantial similarity. So if someone can prove that you had pre-existing knowledge of a composition that you didn't license, and then you created your version of it, you could be found liable for copyright infringement. So I think technologically, it is in the best interests of a lot of these platforms to move away from, hey, I want something that sounds like a Drake type beat or a Drake type song, and instead moves to, I want a song that achieves these goals. I think the future of a lot of these platforms, talking about like why we listen to music, right? There's two main reasons that I think that we listen to music. Number one is we need a soundtrack to our lives, and that's going to be like, I am running. I want to be pumped when I'm running. I don't want to think about how hard it is to go running in the park. I don't want to think about how tired I am. I want to be amped up and I want to like achieve my goals. So maybe I need a custom playlist that gradually ramps up in BPM and like gets heavier in the bass and like does those things that makes me feel happy. What I need in order to do that is to describe to a prompt, these are the types of things that make me feel happy. These are the types of things that make me feel like I want to go running in the park. Make me, a 25-minute song continuous, that just has those elements slowly ramping up over time, right? Because that's the thing that will get me through this difficult, running thing that I need to do. The other thing we do is we use music to connect with others. That is why millions of people go see Taylor Swift, right? Live and in concert. And I don't think AI is ever going to be the best tool for that. AI will certainly be the best tool for, I need personal music to do something, to achieve something personal in my life. Human music will be the best thing for, I want to share this with others. I want other people to have that experience with me. And this goes all the way back to the earliest foundations of music. If you look at why people go to church, a lot of it is the music, right? If you look at why people go to concerts, a lot of it is the music. If you look at a lot of why people play music together, it's because there's something about engaging in the medium of music with other human beings that people really like. even fan chants at sporting arenas, right? There's a reason that there's a common corpus of chants for your particular team. And it feels good to have thousands of people in a stadium all singing that melody at the same time, regardless of whether those people are professional musicians or not. And many of them aren't, right? It just, there's something primal about raising your voice with other people and engaging in that process. And I think that that has to be an undeniably human process.
Right. And I think artists do a lot of good for society, right? Like everyone listens to music, but notoriously they're some of the most underpaid professions in the world. Why do you think that is? It just human nature? Like if you don't charge me for it, I'll just take it for free. Is that on the consumer side? But I also love encouraging my favorite artists, right? Like paying for concerts, for merch,
Yeah.
and all of that, and supporting them, right? So tell me a bit more about the pricing conflicting aspect of being an artist.
Yeah, I think it goes down to cultural attitudes, and I think music is something that is hard to grasp the numerical value of, right? We're living in a world where everything has to make dollars and euros and pounds, right? And when you have a craft like something tangible, like a physical piece of property, right? If I have a $10,000 car, I can take out a bank loan against that $10,000 car, and I know roughly what the calculation is, and the banker I'm talking to knows roughly what the calculation is. We all kind of agree what that $10,000 car is worth, which is, some fraction of $10,000, right? Uh, if I have a $10,000 song, that piece of intellectual property, the reason we call it intellectual property is that it is property. It's just digitally existent rather than physically tangible. And because of that, people don't have an object they can hold in their hand. They don't have, it's difficult for them to wrap their brains around the concept of owning this song and what that could do for them. Now, theoretically, they could get the same loan against that $10,000 song that they could against their $10,000 car. But in practice, it's very difficult to convince somebody that does not have that thinking model. So I think that's why we traditionally undervalue music. And a lot of the time, we undervalue music until it is taken away from us. We're so used to having sound and music and this beautiful audio experience around us at all times, especially in the age of personal streaming, that unless you really force yourself to go a day without listening to any music, and like good luck trying that because you're going to walk into stores, you're going to go to the coffee shop, like you will overhear music happening. But if I could wave a magic wand and make everybody last 24 hours without listening to a single piece of music and without being able to produce a single piece of music, without being able to whistle or hum or sing a tune to themselves, or even recall in their brain what a piece of music sounds like, they would be overjoyed to pay an unlimited amount of money for access to all the music in the world. I think that is truly an unbearable experience, and it's because we're never without our own mental version of music, that we're not forced to contend with that reality. And because we're not
Right.
forced to contend with that reality, we tend to undervalue it. We tend to think like, oh, this isn't absolutely necessary.
And how do you leverage music on a daily basis to be a happier, more productive human being? Like, for example, on my side, every time I work, I'm listening to music. Every time I'm working out, I'm listening to music. My That sort of passed down that passion for music to me. So I'm always literally listening to music. What about you? What does a day in your life look like?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question for me. I grew up in a boys' choir. Shout out to the Ragazzi Boys Chorus, local Bay Area institution. Gave me a lot of my earliest training and had a really aggressive music theory and music cognition program. So whenever I listen to a piece of music, I cannot but constantly analyze it. I'm thinking, oh, that's a nice secondary dominant there. That leads to the five chord, another secondary dominant to the relative minor. That gets us back to the major. Now we're changing keys to the key of the subdominant, for example. And I'm constantly thinking those things in my brain. So I get really distracted when I'm listening to music. I actually prefer putting on like noise canceling headphones and just listening to nothing. I used to play a game and the volume levels were between Wake the Neighbors on the top side and Let Me Listen to My Hard Drive Spin on the bottom side. And I feel like often I choose Let Me Listen to My Hard Drive Spin. But that's because I have such a wonderful relationship to the analysis and the thinking in the language of music. I learned to read and write sheet music at the same time I was learning to read and write English. And so it really does feel like a native language to me. I still go to rehearsal once a week with the guys that I grew up with in this boys choir. We're all in our 30s and 40s now. We still sing together every week, and we make silly jokes about, the tuning of chords and things like that. And I love that level of nerdiness that we get into. So music is a very active experience for me. And if I'm coding or if I'm writing a document, I actually need to not be listening to music because I will stop doing that thing and I'll just pay attention to the music, or it will influence what I'm coding or what I'm writing. I'll start, typing the wrong thing. I'll start typing the lyrics to the song, or I'll start typing the chord progression or something like that. So
Very interesting.
yeah, it'd be like, I don't know if you speak any languages other than English, but it'd be like if you
Yes.
were listening to that other language in your head while trying to have a conversation in English.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's actually the first time I hear about that. I tend to listen to music without lyrics, right? But
Mhm.
say that
Yeah,
I'm
me too.
listening to something in French. I do listen to French music. Shout out to Rap Keb from Montreal in French, and I'm working in English, and it doesn't interfere with
Oh,
that part of
interesting.
my brain. Yeah, the brain is just fascinating, right? But yeah, it's we need to do a round two because it's passing way too quick this interview. But where can
Yeah.
people find out more about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I can give you my link. They can also find me at createbase.com. We're pre-launch, but we're just getting ready to fully launch the program. It's going to have two main features. Number one, we will actually search for existing things in databases before we send your registrations out. And that helps us play nicely with the music industry. So the music industry has certain missing pieces. We help artists connect with exactly the shape of that missing piece so that they can participate well in the systems that will get them paid without causing conflicts which prevent them from getting paid. And the other thing is that we have an AI-powered assistant that helps you fill out all of your registration information. So it asks you simple human questions like, I see you made a song. Tell me how you made this song. Tell me who you made it with. Tell me what each of those people did, and just use your own words. Like there's no template, there's no IRS style tax form that you need to fill out. You can just tell me the creative story in your own prose, and you can even speak it into your microphone if you want to do voice to text. And that results in, as I said, that completely accurate sound recording and musical work registration combined into one that will fit into the shape of whatever the music industry expects the missing piece to look like.
Love
We
that.
really
So that
believe
was
it's going to be a game changer. So, if you want to talk about that, anybody is welcome to message me. I am very reachable on the internet. I'm the only Jesse Buddington in recorded human history. So it's very easy for me to find anywhere where my royalties are missing, and I'm a great guinea pig for my own success.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, it looks really game changing that they have that Jesse's building. So that was Jesse and Charles for another fun.